are these people?
So this is from MintPress. Big fans of them over here. Jessica Buxbaum from MintPress does some pretty good work on this. The reality of Gaza's forced exodus, unveiling Israel's secret plan. Boo, boo, boo. Fucking secret plan, Collin. Turns out not so secret either, but it's been a plan for a minute. So last weekend, Israeli newspaper Local Call leaked an official Israeli government document recommending what Palestinians have been saying Israel is already trying to execute with its war on Gaza. The forcible transfer of Gaza's 2.3 million Palestinian population to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. We've been talking about this all night. Sinai, yeah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office acknowledged the intelligence ministry's proposal's exit. Still, it dismissed it in a statement to the Times of Israel as a concept paper, the likes of which are prepared at all levels of the government and security agencies. So immediate backpedal. Immediate. Yep. Just hit that little backpedal, fucking little crossfade, goes for the 3. So, yet Israel's actions, circulating information, and international support all signal that this policy on paper is quickly transitioning to the policy on the ground. This reminds me of the talks about, and I forget who it was, and someone will let me know in the chat, but talking to an American general where he hands him a paper and like goes, this is what we're doing in Iraq and Afghanistan and whatever. It has nothing to do with 9/11. We're just going to invade these 7 countries. And he then whistle blew on that, and everyone was like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Turns out exactly what happened. That's what this sounds like. So the document dated October 13th calls for Israel to evacuate the Gazan civilian population to Sinai, first by establishing tent cities and then building new towns in northern Sinai. Following the resettlement, the paper recommends to create a sterile zone of several kilometers inside Egypt and not allow the population to return to activity or residence near the Israeli border. Wesley Clark is what Desert Mantis saying. That's who whistle blew on that thing I talked about earlier. What does that sound like, Collin? We've seen some things in history very related to that.
Right, but what I was thinking immediately, this gives precedence to what Daniela Weiss was saying in our previous.
Yes. Yep.
You know.
Yep. Like, send them over to Egypt and Sinai
and what will keep Netanyahu in power? If people like her are making that demand that we want them out, we want them into Egypt so we can essentially take that over too, you know, Bibi is going to go for it if he wants to maintain his position. So it just kind of shows.
Yeah, it's like
that's why they're voted in, even though their politics, I think, are
it's
disastrous.
Like the evangelical vote of Israel is causing this,
right,
over and over again. That is, if they have a democracy that works at all, you know, which we know they don't, because when they put in one of his competitors, it was the same. Wait, I gotta go back. So Netanyahu's already attempting to put this plan into action. Last week, the Israeli prime minister sought to convince European leaders to pressure Egypt into accepting refugees from Gaza. You're already seeing that all over the place now, right? Well, why won't all these other places accept them? Right? That's what you're hearing. This is that. Okay, so according to the Financial Times, diplomats from France, Germany, and the UK, however, dismissed the idea, citing Egypt's strong rejection of the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza. While that avenue failing, Netanyahu is now reportedly proposing to write off a large chunk of Egypt's debt through the World Bank.
Oh, God.
Yeah. World Bank. World Bank. Everyone's favorite BRICS alternative. So, yeah. To incentivize the country to take in Gaza's population. Now, we've talked about this a bit, at least with Indy. I think I've talked about this, where it's like, it's what is that called, Care Bear, when you send people and like to have money attached, right? You are literally giving them money in the tune of like debt cancellation. What's that called? So like you could literally do the math, right? Which I'm sure we'll get to. That's called, for the kids playing at home, slavery. That's what that's called. Okay? You're just like, here, accept some of our refugees for fucking money.
Right.
So anyway, everything that has been spelled out in this document in terms of the modalities is everything that we're seeing right now. International human rights lawyer Diana Boutou told MintPress News. The plan's first phase details Israel's aerial bombardment of the northern section of the Gaza Strip and the moving of the population of over 1 million people to the south. The second stage outlines Israel's ground invasion beginning in the north and then taking over the whole region. Okay? So exactly what's been happening.
Right.
Compressing,
definitely in play right now.
Yeah. Compressing Palestinians to smaller and smaller areas may just be the first of what will ultimately be the fulfillment of these plans on paper. Adam Shapiro. We've heard this Shapiro name come up frequently here of late.
I mean, hopefully not related.
Fucking P word. But, you know, I don't know if there's a relation, Ben, but maybe, I don't know. So you don't call anymore. The controversial intelligence ministry document isn't the only police paper recommending 2.3 million Gazans forcible transfer to Egypt. Collin, what is that called? We've talked about this before. What is that forcible transfer to Egypt? Like, called a war crime? That right there, that's called forcible deportation. That's a war crime, just a war crime. There's one among many being committed in this region right now. Israel security think tank Mizgiv, Mizgav, I would imagine, for the Institute for National Security and Zionist Strategy. Okay. Published a paper written by Mizgav researcher Amir Whiteman on October 17th entitled A Plan for Resettlement and Final Rehabilitation in Egypt of the Entire Population of Gaza. Economic Aspects. Whitman is an activist with Netanyahu's Likud party and reportedly a close associate of Intelligence Minister Gila Gamliel. The report calls for Israel to transfer as many Gazans as possible to other countries. Any other alternative, including PA rule, is a strategic failure. Therefore, Gaza's population should be transferred to the Sinai Desert and the displaced absorbed in other countries. Mizgav published a paper on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's because it is Twitter. Along with a tweet outlining the paper's central arguments. The post was deleted following widespread backlash. The original tweet rascally wabbits. The tweet read, "There is currently a unique and rare opportunity to evacuate the entire Gaza Strip in coordination with the Egyptian government. An immediate, realistic, and sustainable plan for the resettlement and humanitarian rehabilitation of the entire Arab population in the Gaza Strip is required which aligns well with the economic and geopolitical interests of Israel, Egypt, the United States, and guess who, Care Bear? Saudi Arabia.
Saudi.
Yeah. In 2017, it was reported that there are about 10 million vacant housing units in Egypt, of which about half are built and half are under construction. For example, in the two largest satellite cities of Cairo, there's a huge amount of built and empty apartments owned by the government and private parties, and construction areas sufficient to house about 6 million inhabitants. Collin, how many you think are in Cairo houseless right now? If you were to take a guess.
Oh God. I would say 2 million.
But you know what you don't get for housing them? Your debt's paid off.
Right.
Okay. So the average cost of a 3-room apartment with an area of 95 square meters for an average Gazan family consisting of 5.14 people in one of the two cities indicated above is $19,000, Care Bear. That's it. $19,000 for a family of how many? You want to round that up? Yeah. 5 people. You know, taking into account the currently known size of the entire population living in the Gaza Strip, which ranges from about 1.4 to approximately 2.2 million people, one can estimate that the total amount required and be transferred to Egypt to finance the project will be on the order of $5 to $8 billion. Injecting an immediate stimulus of such size into the Egyptian economy would provide a tremendous and immediate benefit to al-Sisi's regime. These sums, in retaliation to the Israel economy, are minimal. Investing a few $1 billion, even if it's 20 or 30 billion, to solve this difficult issue is an innovative, cheap, and sustainable solution. Okay? There's no doubt that in order for this plan to be realized, many conditions must exist concurrently. Currently, these conditions are optimal, and it is unclear when another such opportunity will arise, if ever. Misgov subsequently published another paper related to Gaza entitled Hamas Enjoys Widespread Support Among Gaza's Population, written by Misgov fellow Yishai Armani on October 19th. Okay, in this essay, Armani details the considerable support Hamas enjoys from its constituents, writing, despite claims now being made that the majority of the public in Gaza desires peace and is being held captive by Hamas, data and evidence collected over the past 2 decades consistently demonstrates the opposite. Hamas enjoys widespread support among Gaza's civilian population. The paper then concludes that claims regarding the existence of a clear ideological or political demarcation between the majority of Gaza's residents and Hamas are entirely unfounded. Sure they are, guy. While Armani makes clear not to conflate civilians with Hamas militants, he does note that Hamas's popularity among Gaza's residents should be taken into account with regard to decisions related to the military campaign and to post-war arrangements in the Gaza Strip. The Misgov Institute did not respond to MintPress News' request for comment on these position papers. Israel legal advisor Itlay Epstein explained on social media how the views outlined in Misgov's recent documents are already translating into action. According to leaflets airdropped on northern Gaza from the Israel military, anyone who doesn't leave for the south could be considered affiliated with Hamas. Furthermore, yes. Yep. After the exactly. Everyone is Hamas. Don't worry about it. Furthermore, Misgov's executives already appear integral in crafting government legislation. Misgov is headed by former Netanyahu National Security Advisor, Meir Ben Shabbat, an influential figure in the Israeli security sphere and one of the architects of Israel's normalization deals with the UAE Bahrain, and Morocco. Misgov is also funded by the Kohelet Policy Forum, now notorious for being behind the current Israeli government's judicial overhaul plans. The Institute's founder and former chairs are also entwined with the Israeli government. Former chairman Yoaz Hendel served as Israel's Minister of Communications. Moshe Alon served as defense minister under Netanyahu. Moshe Aarons also worked as Israel's defense minister and foreign affairs minister. Natan Sharansky served as interior minister and as deputy prime minister. One of the critical points in the intelligence ministry's document stressed the need for harnessing international support for the expulsion plan, something analysts argue Israel's Western allies are already doing. Care Bear. Yeah. On October 20th, the White House sent a $14 billion funding request to Congress for aid to Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine. The letter's language has come under scrutiny for suggesting the forcible displacement of Gazans to other countries. Oh, y'all didn't know that shit was in there, huh? Y'all didn't know about that shit. This is why. Okay?
What did the letter say?
These resources would support displaced and conflict-affected civilians, including Palestinian refugees in Gaza and the West Bank, and to address potential needs of Gazans fleeing to neighboring countries.
Wait, pause.
Yes.
Pause.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
No, this gives the idea that
remember that Band-Aid?
Leaving on their own accord.
Yes. Remember that Band-Aid? The Band-Aid that they put, remember that, like, oh, we can beat your wife, but, like, we'll put a Band-Aid on it and give her some bottled water for, like, that's,
yeah.
Like, that was this. This was the Band-Aid that they got, but guess what it's tied to, Care Bear? Guess what that aid is tied to? So for you to get the aid, that means you got to do what?
You got to go.
You got to fucking go. Like, so either get the fuck out or die.
Right.
That's what this is.
I'm sorry, this has to be clipped. Honestly, like this should be clipped. This should be all over Twitter, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like this just gives more proof like this humanitarian aid
is
that what we're hearing on Main Street is bullshit.
Is fucking bullshit.
It's always the devil. I say it all the time. The devil's
in the fucking details, ain't it? Ain't it fucking in there? Yep.
well, it's worse than what we thought because it's the idea of like, oh, they get the aid, but they will continue to bomb. No, it's like
Mastermind Hour. First, you get the aid,
and they will bomb your ass anyway. But you got to leave anyhow.
Mastermind Hour. First, you get the aid. Then you get the power, and then you get the women. In other words, Collin, cash rules everything around me. Gotta get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. Like, that's literally like they're trying to make him an offer they can't refuse. Like,
well, honestly, like this article, I think that was Crab saying secret plan. This isn't a secret. Like,
yes, but it's
especially if you've been watching. This might be secret to the normies, but like for us who's been kind of watching this, we knew that this kind of shit was going to happen in some way, shape, or form. But I didn't realize how blatant this actually was in terms of, this is kind of this. I think if anything, this is kind of showing that like what we've been thinking is happening a lot sooner than anticipated. I figured they will just kind of continue blowing shit up for an indeterminate amount of time. No, it's like, get out now, like, and go to Egypt.
Yep. Someone said that
and we'll bomb you there too.
Ben Sharpie only Twitter account got me suspended, and that hell site, he's Mossad. Collin, do you know what Mossad is? Mossad is a Hebrew word, okay? And we asked them what it meant. Like, could you give us a translation? Right? Do you know what they called it? The
What?
Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. Spell that out for me, please. If that's like,
Israeli...
your... Yeah. Secret.
Wait, say the words again. Secret.
Intelligence.
Oh.
Service.
Oh.
Otherwise known as...
ISIS.
Yes. Yeah, kind of a little bit. Maybe that's why they tried to call it ISIL for a bit. They didn't want it confused. But just saying. I mean, I'm not saying it's a coinky dink, but it is kind of coinky dinky, isn't it? So Dawn slammed the White House's request language and called on Congress to reject the supplementary funding bill. Okay, but we know how that worked.
Right.
The Biden administration isn't just giving a green light for ethnic cleansing, it's bankrolling it. Sarah Lee Winston, Dawn's executive director, said in a statement, gaslighting Americans into facilitating long-held Israeli plans to depopulate Gaza under the cover of humanitarian aid is a cruel and grotesque hoax. While the White House requests to acknowledge the possibility of Gazans being expelled during the war, U.S. President Joseph Biden had previously advocated against this forcible displacement. The White House did not respond.
Whatever. He's pussy popped and backtracks on every single thing that he said. So,
yep.
So whatever. Like,
the White House did not respond to MintPress's news inquiries for comment on the aid bill. MintPress, when the fuck White House respond to any of your questions, let alone this one in particular? Like, I mean, I feel you, but I feel like, I'm like, I know why you're doing that. That's like, they ain't saying shit. I know they ain't saying shit. They never say shit. The Americans are supporting Israel and creating the conditions on the ground that are catastrophic from a humanitarian perspective, Don Shapiro told MintPress News. So far, the U.S. has repeatedly rejected calls for a ceasefire in Israel's war on Gaza. However, Biden recently advocated for a pause to secure the release of American captives held by Hamas. The U.S. has also sent senior army officials to advise Israel's military on its ground invasion into Gaza and increased its arms and troops in the Middle East and Eastern Mediterranean regions. This has included shipments of armored jeeps and advanced weaponry to Israel. Footage circulating online has also shown U.S. manufactured weapons containing white phosphorus being used in Israel's assault on Gaza. These artillery shells were made by Pine Bluff Arsenal. Feel free to put that into Google Maps. A chemical weapons manufacturer based in Arkansas, known for supplying white phosphorus ammunition. Guess whose neck of the wood that is, Care Bear? Arkansas. Who you know from Arkansas? Like,
I have no idea.
They've been in power a few times.
Oh, the Clintons, whatever.
Yeah. You think they've made any money on Pine Bluff? You think?
Oh, of course they have.
Okay, probably connected to the Waldens, who are also there. So the majority of the world is opposed to this attack on Gaza, Bhuttu said, but still Western Europe, the United States, and Canada are not. Bhuttu described the U.S. as totally complicit in Israel's displacement of Palestinians in Gaza, saying this is an Israeli plan that will be signed off on by the Americans, by the Canadians, by Europe, and so on. Israel's policy papers promoting the ethnic cleansing of Gaza simply mirror what many Israeli politicians and media pundits have expressed since the beginning of the war. Member of Israeli parliament Ariel Colliner called for repeating the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians during Israel's establishment as a state in 1948, known otherwise as the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic, except on a much larger scale. I don't know. There's another Jewish word about breaking glass. Might be similar. Right now, one goal, Nakba. A Nakba that will overshadow the Nakba of 1948, Kalner wrote on Twitter. Dror Edyar, Israel's former ambassador to Italy, called for the complete destruction of Gaza during a live interview with Italian channel Reti 4. Quattro. For us, there is a purpose to destroy Gaza, to destroy the absolute evil, he said. Absolute evil. Mastermind hour Kristallnacht. That would be the German word, I think. But, German Jewish, same diff, right? At least the Nacht part is. As Israel continues carpet bombing Gaza, and as even a sliver of humanitarian aid struggles to trickle into the besieged enclave, another Nakba, or arguably just another chapter in this genocidal series, is rapidly being carried out. So this has just been a continuation since 48, Bhutto said. It's just a slow drip to get people to leave, and in some cases, not a slow drip, but even a faster one. So, yeah, you just sent me a thing?
Yeah. Just what you mentioned it several paragraphs ago reminded me of this. This was, I know a couple of other outlets kind of reported on this back in September, but I know Brett Wilkins, a friend to the show, wrote an article regarding Benjamin. I have to find where he was. At the UN General Assembly. This was back in September.
Yeah.
Netanyahu showed this map, which he called the New Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. That's like the Euphrates over to the Nile.
Right. Well, right. So basically in that map, we see Israel fully filled in.
Yeah.
So West Bank gone, East Jerusalem gone, Gaza gone. Yeah. But then
all that area in green is from the Euphrates to the Nile. Probably further than.
Yes.
Because if that's Egypt, so the Nile's in the middle of that. So
So that big sliver of that river in between Saudi Arabia and Egypt.
Yeah, that little sea.
Yeah.
No,
that's
Yeah, no, this is like this bit. This isn't a river. That's like
it's instant within.
Yeah, Egypt, it's like in here. It's like from here down.
My geography is bad right now, but
no.
But the idea is that just to eliminate Palestine, but developing relations with all of these countries in the Middle East, which is again where Egypt comes to play in what you.
Yeah.
So obviously pay off their debt.
Mm-hmm.
If you take our slaves,
right?
Essentially,
yes. So, well, I mean, it's like do what you want with these people. Here's money. Like we're gonna force march them to you.
Right.
So, yeah. Meanwhile, Egyptians who desperately need their own aid and care are going to be ignored.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then Israel will then start blaming Egypt for retaliation against it. And then they'll go after it.
Find a reason to go after it. And yeah.
and then we'll support it with military aid, and then it'll be the Saudis next, and then this is invasion. But yeah. Well, on that note,
yeah, so we definitely need to have a lighter show next week. Assuming
we'll try. Even then, it might be a bit like depressing. Sorries. This is like the world. My apologies. If I could fix, I would.
You're gonna depress the people the day before Thanksgiving.
It's okay. They'll get boats. It'll be fine. We'll figure it out. But
well, speaking of, so that's our show. So let's look